I had a mom of a 16-year-old girl ask to sit in my gym, this tiny space, and be on top of her daughter and watch. And I said, absolutely not. You are not allowed in here. You can walk around my neighborhood and enjoy the sunshine and get a tan and then come back in an hour. And
Good for
she
you.
was so pissed at me and she couldn't believe I said no. And the girl, she rolled her eyes when her mom asked the question. And I'm like, your daughter doesn't want you here. Like, this is
Right.
her chance to work out and be with her friends and not have you there. Dave, welcome back to the podcast.
It's my favorite place to be, Erica. Thank you for having me once again. I can't wait to talk about this one. I think we could deep dive into this one.
Yes, pressure from sports parents. We are going to get into all of that today. And this just kind of reminded me of a story when I was coaching in Maryland. I used to rent out field space at an indoor soccer facility in the wintertime. And on the other field, there was always this dad training his 8-year-old son to be a professional NFL player. They were doing combine drills and sled sprints and all this crazy stuff you would see a professional NFL player do. And this poor kid, he was miserable. He didn't once smile or laugh during these sessions when his dad was coaching him. He just looked like he was giving half effort because he wasn't having fun and there was no motivation behind it. And his dad just kept screaming at him, come on, Braxton, work harder, run harder, like dig those heels in, and just screaming at this kid. And here I am on the other field coaching my girls. And I'm just like, man, should I step in and say something? But, as a coach, you don't want to like step on toes and tell parents how to parent their kid. But it was just so horrific. I almost did, just knowing what I know about youth development and motivation and keeping things fun. And it was just so sad to see. And I look back, that was about 10 years ago when I saw this happening. And I just wonder where that kid is today. And I hope he's
hmm
okay. I hope things change for him. But what his dad was doing at age 8 was really tough to see. And that pressure so young, it's really hard to keep that motivation in that kid for
hmm
many years when it's pressure that young and an obligation that young and not fun. He's going to lose
Yeah.
motivation by the time he's 16 years old. So, yeah, that story just really came up for me right now with this topic we're going to talk about today.
I think maybe we can start out as well with a reminder to parents, why do we have our kids play sports? Right? And in this case, I'm sure this dad would say, "Oh, but, because he'll learn life lessons and all the positive things." But like, really, is that what's driving you as the parent? And it has to be rooted in because they love to play it, right? And before the argument comes in, like, well, we don't know if they love it. They're only 6, right? Have them try different sports and try different things, and you'll see what they gravitate toward in terms of their enjoyment. And there's a difference between what they enjoy the most sometimes and what they're the best at. Say they played 3 different sports. I've seen that a lot, and I've had these conversations with young parents. What do you think they should do? I think they should keep playing a lot of sports. Like, they're only 6 or 7 or 8. They don't need to specialize now, but, like, do they love it? Is it are they playing it because it makes them happy? Are you having them play sports because it helps them develop as a human? It develops physical skills. It develops cooperation, creativity, strategy, a sense of belonging, confidence, how to deal with competition, all the things that you and I know and love about sport, and especially the beautiful game of soccer. Those should be the drivers and not, well, I was an all-star in high school, so my kid's got a really good chance of getting a scholarship in 10 years. I sh What if he's into music? What if she loves theater arts? Like, are you encouraging and helping them pursue things that really give them enjoyment and help them develop as humans? So it has to, in my opinion, start there, because if not, you get all this transparent and opaque pressure from parents on these kids at all ages, whether it's 6 or 18.
I think that's so key is to have it be joyful young because when it starts to get very competitive and serious in those adolescent years, that's when it separates the girls from the women. That's when it separates the average from the great because if young, you were pressured to do it, you didn't really enjoy it. And then when you're older and the stakes are really high and then adversities come, you're more likely to freeze and not be able to
Hmm.
handle them because you don't have that passion to back it up. When you're passionate and excited about your sport, you handle challenge very well. You actually really embrace it because your why is so deep and it the why wasn't mom or dad. The why was I love my sport, I enjoy being with my team, I love being in the moment when I'm out there on the field sprinting or doing
Hmm.
1v1s, and it's that flow, that pure joy. And I just think some parents of younger kids are forgetting that because it is easy to forget that in a world where there's FOMO or social comparison or competition to
Yeah.
be on the best team. And, I don't blame parents for it because it is a hard world right now as a sports parent.
Right. And I think that if what you just said could be fostered early, because the drivers for the parents are love, enjoyment of the game, growth and development and cooperation, all these great things. The parent can have the perspective to support them in the correct way. So when things do get tough, and as they grow into their sport, to your point, it's they can focus on the important things like, "I love this sport. I'm so passionate about it. The only place I wanna be is on the field," and their drive stays super high. But when there's unrealistic expectations from the parents, those are projected onto the kids, and I'll argue with any parent. You might say, "No, I don't do that." You're not doing it on purpose, and this is what I talk about when I talk about, opaque pressure. Pressure is pressure, but, like, now you have the kids that have unrealistic expectations. Now they're starting to feel stress and anxiety. On the other side of that can be depression. They can feel embarrassment, lower confidence, and then they start to sometimes give a lack of effort because it can become easier mentally or psychologically to not try as hard and fail than to try as hard as you can and feel like you're failing anyway because of pressure, right? So it's almost like they hide. You've seen players that kind of hide on the field. They're feeling pressure and they're feeling stress and they're so afraid to fail. It's easy to hide behind defenders for a game. Well, I didn't get the ball anyway. They know what they're doing. I've done that. I've done that. And I felt awful afterward and I didn't know why. I mean, I felt awful because I hid for a game. I didn't get the ball and I didn't get to shine and I didn't get to try to score. But I felt awful because of the pressure. And then, then you fast forward, and you and I have talked many times, publicly and privately, about that can also lead to burnout, overtraining, injury, and then ultimately they want to quit.
Mhm,
And it's like we went from here to here meaning to.
mhm,
without meaning to. Again, there's transparent or direct competition, but I think what I'd like to talk to you about a little bit is that pressure that comes, and it's like a thief in the night. Like no one sees it coming. because it's not as in their face. What are you doing? You should have scored 3 goals. You know, just in their face type of pressure. We've all seen that. We've seen that on social media, but um, yeah, this is just so complex. I'm really glad that we started with like parental expectations, and then how do we how that fosters expectations for the kids. So when things do get serious, just what you said, like they can they can just focus on their passion for their game and give all out effort and make mistakes with confidence and be happy.
I think we should talk about how the pressure and the confidence go hand in hand because a lot of parents, I'm sure you get clients coming to you asking, "Oh, Coach Dave, I need help with my daughter's confidence." And I get this all the time too.
Hmm.
And then you go watch your players play and you look at how the parents behaving on the sideline of this supposed not confident girl, but that could be coming from just the pressure or your body language as a parent on the sideline. If a girl is hesitant on the field or she's constantly looking at the sideline at her parent for approval, yeah, of course she's not going to have confidence because she feels for you she has to be perfect. And I
Hmm.
really want to warn parents, I don't want you to expect perfectionism from your girl or say, "Oh, she's perfect in my eyes." I get that. I get kids are our heart bursting out of us, but we can't set that high expectation to be perfect because she's going to be fearful of making mistakes. She's not going to take risks on the field or get after the ball and anticipate. She's going to freeze. She's going to hide,
Hmm.
like you said. And I think that pressure from the parent can ruin confidence. And if you think that a trainer like me or Dave is going to help save confidence while you're still acting like this on the sideline or on the car ride home, we can't really help much with confidence at that point because the other hours she's spending with you is kind of overshadowing what we're doing.
Hmm. 100%. Um, and one of the phenomenons I see all the time, and I mentioned this one, like hiding on the field. It's called base camping. So, and this relates to what you said about trying to be perfect all the time. Like improvement doesn't go in a straight line. You and I know that. Parents know that too, but parents, you have to remember it and you have to keep that in the forefront. They're going to have a bad game. They're going to make a bad play. They're just going to be off. Their team isn't going to perform. They're going to lose to a team they should have beat. Like it happens. That's why we play. If we knew the outcome, why would we even play the games? Right? And no, they're not infallible. Like we watch players on TV and it's easy to criticize when they make mistakes on TV or have a bad game or we get all upset when our favorite NFL team loses, whatever. Like if professional athletes, the best in the world, have bad days, can we not allow our kids to have those? Like we really have. And on the other side, like we talked about the overpraising. It's because like, yeah, we think our kids are the best. My boys are the best. Like they are. They're the best people. They're my favorite people. But they weren't always the best player on the field, and that's okay. That's okay. So to get back to base camping, so we all like if we were going to climb a mountain, right? Most of us know, and it's pretty apparent, I would think, that when you climb up a mountain, you're not just climbing straight up. There's going to be switchbacks. You're going to have to go down into a valley and then come back up because you can't, traverse across this part of it. It's too steep, or you have to go around this way and then up, and then you have to go back this way. And like when people climb like Everest, there's a base camp. They have to climb just to that. So they're already pretty good. They can hike to this base camp that's thousands of feet above sea level. Most of us probably couldn't even get there. But like when athletes are feeling this pressure, they don't want to go through the ups and downs of getting better anymore. It's too hard. it's too emotional. It's too I'm not good enough no matter what I do, no matter how much effort I get. There's just too much pressure. So it's easier to stay in base camp than to try to climb the mountain and not get there. And I hope that makes sense. Like I learned about that years ago. I'm like, that makes perfect sense in terms of training athletes and training soccer players because yeah, it's like this. And you hope when you draw a straight line from where they started to the end, yeah, it, it went up. But like there's going to be ups and downs. And we need to encourage our kids and love on them so that they don't want they don't feel like they need to stay at base camp. They can climb and then go back down. And even maybe this is true about Everest too, right? Sometimes they go out to get to the next peak or the next camping spot and they have to go back. The weather turns or they're just extremely fatigued that day. They can't breathe. They have to go back, recoup, replan, and then go for it again. It's such a great analogy for the game because that's what development is, right? So we need to encourage and love so that our kids aren't afraid to put their foot out and keep going and they can make those mistakes with confidence knowing that their real safe place isn't on the field, it's at home with you. It's on the car ride home with you. You know, it's not all these little jabs, whether it's direct or indirect, that deters from their confidence.
It's such a nice reminder that this sports journey is so up and down. It's not a straight line. And when I have parents tell me, oh, she had a great weekend, she had amazing games, the training's paying off, I'm like, that's awesome. But also expect, and maybe in a few weekends, she might have a bad day. And
Mhm,
that's not a result of the training or whatever. It's just being an
mhm,
athlete.
yeah,
And I always tell parents, like, be grateful, enjoy those moments when things are going well, but just know and expect that there is going to
mhm,
come a time, whether it's in a few weeks from now or a month from now, where she is going to look like the worst athlete out there. She's going to be slow.
mhm,
She's not going to want to get to the ball for whatever reason. It's just going to happen. I've had those games too. Even when I was playing at Johns Hopkins, it happens. And just
mhm,
have some grace. And that doesn't mean you have to say anything to her or change the training program. Please don't do that because we try to want to like fix things when things go wrong.
right,
Maybe just ask some questions or maybe just praise her. Well, not your best game, but you gave an effort. You were a good teammate. You were encouraging your teammates out there and just
mhm,
maybe check in with her and be like, "What do you think went well?" Or maybe you don't say
mhm,
anything at all, but just to nitpick her mistakes and then be like, "Well, we need to go back to see Erica for more training," or "We need to fix this and fix that." No, don't.
yeah,
Like,
you
just
really
stick
weren't
with the
fast today.
process.
I don't know what was wrong with you. Why weren't you fast today? Um,
Yeah, we need to work on like sleds and acceleration with Erica. I'm like, no, you don't. We just need to stick with the progression of the program and lean into those ups and downs because they're going to happen.
yep,
And I always tell
exactly.
my older girls with even like speed and
Mhm,
PRs, you're not going to PR every week when we time your
right,
sprints. Like
right.
your times are going to be all over the place and it's the same
Mhm,
thing with sport performance or when you're playing in games. It's going to be all over the place.
100%. I like what you said earlier too, like, ask your athlete questions because, like, parents that are watching this and even kids that, like, maybe there's some ammunition or tools for you to talk to your mom and dad about what you need. They should be asking you questions. Parents, you should be asking them questions. You know, I just loved I know the game didn't turn out the way that you wanted. I just loved watching you out there. How did you feel? And zip it. It's your opinion. I'm sorry. Your opinion doesn't matter. It matters because 'cause you're their parent and they respect you and they wanna please you. But in the grand scheme of things, your your opinion on how they played on any one particular day or half, because I've heard that too. Well, first half she was awful, and then she finally woke up. Like, your opinion doesn't matter. The opinion that matters is hers or his, and second is their coach, who's with them day in and day out in training sessions, and then is, watching the game to see how the flow of the game is going and the impact that your child had in that game. Your opinion can really be detrimental to the development as well. And I do want to get into some of these like more indirect ways of adding pressure, because I think a lot of parents don't understand they're doing it. They're just trying to be helpful, right? They're trying to advocate for their kids and be helpful and all that, but it's unknowingly be- it's like a pressure cooker,
I,
and
I
they're in
do
eighth
want
grade.
I do want to talk about when parents crap talk the coach to the kid and say things like, "Oh, well, the coach doesn't see your value. Coach should be doing this. Coach should be doing that." And in the kid's mind, it's like, oh, like we can disrespect other professionals at their craft or not leave our trust in experts. And it's just not a good message to the kid. And then the kid feels
Hmm.
entitled, oh, I should be playing. And I would just want to say from a coach's perspective, most coaches, I would say the majority of them have the kid's best interest in mind, the team's best interest in mind. Like at the end of the day, coaches, they do have to win, especially at the older levels. The younger levels, I agree, equal playing time, at least 12 and under. But if your kid's
Hmm.
older than that and we're fighting for playing time, coaches are putting people out there who at the time he or she thinks is best and deserves it. Are there maybe a small percentage of coaches who are toxic and who might be screwing your kid over because of politics or personal issues? Yeah, sure, but that's a small percentage that should not be representing all coaches. So
Hmm.
parents also need to be careful with generalizing, oh, all coaches are this and it's political and they're against my kid, and then you're saying that in front of your kid. That's not good either.
It just adds more pressure. The kid
Mhm.
can't do anything about it, right? And even if, let's just take this scenario, it's apparent to everybody your kid's better than the kids that's starting over them. And maybe they're getting whatever. It's just a scenario. They're starting, they're getting more playing time. Your kid's a better player. Maybe you're new to the team. It doesn't even matter. What's the lesson to your kid? We're going to complain about it,
Right.
and I'm going to crap talk your coach to you. Like, how about just support them? I believe in you. You can do this. Just keep working hard. What are some things you think you can do to stand out? What are some things, is there anything you think you or feel like you feel good about doing to earn that playing time? And if they don't know because either they're emotionally a little bit more immature or they're younger, give them some suggestions. Practice more.
Mhm.
Do you want me to help you practice more? Do you feel comfortable talking to coach and you asking coach, coach, what can I do to get more playing time? Because the only message they're getting is my coach doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. Excuse me. And it's like, mom, you signed me up for this, right? Dad, you guys told me this was a team I needed to be on. Because let's face it, Erica, these days it's very much driven by the parents, right? When club first started out, you'd get club coaches at rec state tournaments recruiting kids. Like, man, this kid has some potential. We'd love to see him get into a situation where there's potentially better coaching and more opportunity. And that's how that would go. Now it's like the parents are like, oh, I talked to Erica's mom, and this club is, man, they go to nationals every year. We need to join that. Okay.
Oh my gosh, Dave. So I need to give you an example of my mom. My mom was amazing and very similar situations, even back in the day. So I was playing rec soccer at least until the age of 13. And there were always these travel coaches at my games trying to poach me and scout me and talk to my mom
Hmm.
on the sidelines and be like, we want Erica on our travel team at age 10. And my mom never once came up to me and said, "You need to join this team." She would just joke with me. She'd be like, "Oh, like Coach Kevin is trying to recruit you again for travel, but you
Hmm.
love your team right now. You're so happy. I don't see why you would even leave." And my mom and I just laughed about it when I was a kid. And she never was like, "We need to go to this travel team for more opportunities so you can play at Johns Hopkins one day." It was like, "No, focus on the present moment. Are you
Hmm.
happy with your team? Are you having fun? Do you like your coach at age 10?" And I did.
Hmm.
Answered yes to all those questions and I stayed.
Hmm.
I didn't succumb to the pressure of, oh, I need to make travel at age 10. Otherwise, I'm going to be way behind everyone else and never play in college. So I just love that my mom just like didn't listen to these people. She didn't give a crap. She was like, Erica's happy. Like, let her just
Yeah,
enjoy it.
we're good. Excuse me. A similar thing happened to my oldest son. I entered our rec team just into an indoor tournament just to get touches on the ball in the winter and to have some fun. It was more like, oh, this is great. Pressure's off me. I just gotta like sub the kids. Like, I'll give them little tips here and there, but I just want them to go out and run around as a team before the spring started. So, and a lot of the other teams were club teams because not a lot of rec teams did indoor back when Trevor was like 10. So, anyways, after one particular game, and three different club coaches came up to me, and their question was, "What club is he with?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, we're not with a club right now." And then it was like the hard sell. And same thing. I was like, "You know what? I think we're all set right now. I really appreciate your kind words." And, he just loves it. And because my kids were also the kids that they'd say, "Dad, will you drop us off at the fields?" And they'd meet a bunch of other kids and they would just play for hours, uncoached, just playground soccer. They'd come up with their own drills, whatever. But yeah, that's back in the day. That's how it worked. Now it's, parents are like, they're not getting anything out of this rec team. We
Mhm.
need to find a club. I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask around.
Yeah, back in
Oh,
the day, we like laughed at those coaches trying to recruit us from higher level teams. We were like, we're so happy here. Why would we
right.
leave? We've been on this rec team since age 6. We have all of our best friends on this team.
Yeah, you're playing with
Why
your
would we
friends.
try and fix what isn't broken? And it was just, yeah, it's just like so different now how people react to those travel coaches trying to poach and recruit from
Hmm.
these rec teams. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I find that
100%.
so interesting. And I love what you said about your boys going out to the field to practice on their own. And I think when young athletes don't feel pressure, they take initiative on their own because they have their own
Mhm.
joy for it. It's not the parent's joy and then pushing the sport on the kid. It's, I just love playing. I want to practice more. I want to be with the ball and work on my skills. And I know
Right.
some parents really do struggle to get their girls to practice their skills. They're like, Erica, she just never gets out with the ball. She never does wall ball or juggles or practices her shooting. How do we get her to do it? And I'm like, I don't know if she has the passion for it at this point because if you feel you have to nag her to do it,
Hmm.
this could be a passion problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw it was either a post or another podcast you did on that, and it's 100% accurate. I couldn't agree with you more. It's either not there or it was there and it's been already stripped down because it's like, it's 3 to 4 club practices a week and then 2 to 3 games on the weekends. And like, yeah, she's burnt out. Like, but I agree with you on the other side of it. If she was really passionate, she'd be like you and I. Like, I remember growing up going to soccer camp all day long, day camp, and I would come home have a snack, and then I was back in the backyard practicing on my own because I loved it. But I also, I didn't experience. Old enough to I experienced ODP, but club wasn't really a thing when I was growing up. It was ODP was a big deal back then too, because they were pulling players, from different districts of the state, and then regionally, and then state, and regional United States and that stuff. So, but yeah, it's so much, and if they're not being supported in the way that they need to be and deserve to be, why would they go out and practice? Because in their minds, in their young minds, what's it going to change? I'm still going to show up to my practice. And you mentioned practice on their own, and one of the things I thought of is like, when did it become okay to bring your kids to practice and sit there and watch the practice on the sideline and say stuff to your kid during a practice, let alone be there? Drop your kid off and go read a book somewhere. Like, and I get it, they have to travel more, especially for club practices. Go read a book somewhere, go to the grocery store, find something to do, or figure out whether this is really what's best for your family and what you're doing. Because you being at the practices, that's one of those indirect pressures that it's like, again, now I have to perform at practice too. I can't make a mistake at practice, because when I get in the car, mom and dad could see me through the windshield as they were watching and be like, oh, there was that one ball, I felt like you should have got there. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you watching? I've heard kids say that. Like, why do my parents watch my practices? I hate it.
They don't want them there.
No, neither
Yeah.
do the coaches, believe me.
And that's important what you said there, Dave, is if the parent's watching at practice, then it does add that extra pressure. And practice is the
Mhm,
time for these athletes to take risks and be encouraged to actually make mistakes so that they
mhm,
can figure it out and prepare for game day. And I
mhm.
always tell my girls, practice is the time to go for those 1v1s or do something you've maybe never tried before and build that skill and that competency, which leads to confidence. And they're going
Mhm.
to lose that confidence if you're standing there at practice or even at a skills training session or at a speed and strength session. The kid's going to
Yep.
be constantly looking over at you and distracted, and they don't feel free to take those risks and to really be present at training. And you're going to laugh at this. I have so many crazy stories. So
Me too.
I have a home facility, so it's in my garage, and we can probably fit like 4 or 5 athletes in there at a time. It's a super small
Mhm.
space. And this past summer, I had a mom of a 16-year-old girl ask to sit in my gym, this tiny space, and be on top of her daughter and watch. And I said, absolutely not. You are not allowed in here. You can walk around my neighborhood and enjoy the sunshine and get a tan and then come back in an hour. And
Good for
she
you.
was so pissed at me and she couldn't believe I said no. And the girl was, like, happy I said yes. Like, she rolled her eyes when her mom asked the question, and I'm like, "Your daughter doesn't want you here. Like, this is
Right.
her chance to work out and be with her friends and not have you there." And I
Mhm.
just thought it was so insane for a mom of a 16-year-old girl. It's like, "Do you not trust me enough to run a good gym session? You're paying me. You hired me. Why do you have to be looking over my shoulder?"
I can only imagine how that mom is in terms of discussions with other parents about playing time, with her daughter present, most likely, how she is in talking to her daughter about her coach or other teammates. Like, she needs to back off. Her daughter is either going to quit now, or when she's pushing her daughter to get recruited to go to play in school, her daughter's going to be like, I don't know if I want to play in college.
Mhm.
She's going to be done.
And
And what
it's
she doesn't
sadly
understand is she's stripping the love of the game away from her daughter. And I'm sure that's the last thing that she wants to do. But
yeah.
that's what, like, overpraising, talking poorly about other teammates, creating, how about this one? Creating a competition between your son or daughter, in another teammate. My mom unknowingly did that when I was in high school, and the other teammate was one of my best friends too. So it was like it just everything was a competition. Like Jeff had more goals, you had more goals. Like Jeff this, Jeff that, and I'm like, I don't care. Like I don't want to talk about this. It was such a huge piece of stress toward the end of my high school career, and it affected our friendship because then I started to see Jeff as like just straight up competition, not one of my best friends that I grew up with, not the kid that I knew if I fed him the ball he could finish. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like you guys are a team. It doesn't matter who scores the goal. It's a team goal. Like individual stats are one thing, but like go out there and have fun and try to win together with your best friends. That was so damaging. And that happens a lot. Right? Even with if it's playing time. Like, why is Susie starting over you? Like, don't create that competition. Like, just focus on your own child and what they can do. If she was that much better, she'd probably start. Like you said, coaches want their kids to succeed. Coaches want their teams to succeed. They want team development and individual development. No coach starts coaching to be a jerk and to like play games with kids' minds. That's not, I used to when I had my gym, I used to talk to so many kids, and there was this one time one kid was talking to one of my assistant coaches and I about, oh, Mr. So and so, his teacher, he hates me. And my coach was like, buddy, no teacher ever started teaching because they hate kids. Like, you gotta know that. Like, if you feel like he's got a beef with you, really think about like, is there anything that you did? And if you don't think you did anything, ask him. Like, this is a high school kid. Like, teachers by and large don't hate kids, so they would not be teachers. Same with coaches. How about screaming at the refs? That adds pressure to your kids. Doesn't help them at all. Has there ever been a time in human history where a ref has changed a call because of parents yelling at them? No. But your child feels that.
Mhm.
And I know like you might feel like your child has been wronged because they were fouled and there was no call or whatever the case may be. It's just, it doesn't help. Asking too many questions, the conversations you might even have with your spouse or girlfriend or whatever your situation is at home about your daughter's team and about your daughter's coach and playing time. Like kids pick up on everything. That's pressure. So if you're going to do that, make sure you do it in private. Um, but I think if the parents could learn to enjoy the ride a little bit more, it'd be helpful for the kids.
Yeah. I also want to talk about what parents are posting on Facebook and in some of these
Thank you.
threads and chat rooms. And I know that your kids aren't on Facebook, but a good question to ask is would you be proud of what you're posting on Facebook? Because a lot of it does look very aggressive and belligerent and a lot of drama and gossip. And
Hmm.
you never know. I mean, it's always on the internet. One day your daughter might find that and see you acting a fool. So
But
be
this is how it
careful.
happens too, Erica. You post something about an unhappy situation that you have. I'm your son, and you post like Dave's getting screwed over by his coach. Anyone know any other good club teams, whatever? And then I go to school, and my best buddy Jeff says, "Hey, my mom said your mom had some kind of post on Facebook about you leaving the club." And I'm like, "Bro, what?" that's skibbity toilet. Like,
People can see
like
what you
it,
post, what you like. Yeah, the
but it,
kid
it
might,
doesn't have to be direct. Like, yeah, I'm not
yeah,
on Facebook. I'm 16, but like
yeah, so true.
parents talk to their kids, like, and we get it all the time. Like my girlfriend's got a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. Oh, my buddy said, well, where'd your buddy get that information? Well, his mom told him that, so and so posted on Facebook or whatever. And I'm like, and then we've got to do like a background, like fact checking mission because now Landon or Preston they think that's fact that so and so said something about so and so's teammate or the coach, or it can be so damaging. And then if that's off obviously direct, but I'm so glad you brought that up. The other thing is the humble and not so humble brags. Like, I get it, but again, think about what's important, right? If your kid has a great game, what was important the the development you've seen over the last couple games, or their effort in that game was just like you need to perpetuate and have the integrity to perpetuate the same messaging all the time. We talk about to our kids about character and integrity all the time, and integrity we often will talk about, are you acting the same when no one's watching as when like coach is watching? Do you have that integrity? Like, are you saying the same things to your kids as you are to other parents and on social media and what, right? Because if the messages are jumbled, that is going to come across in some way, whether you slip up and you say it directly to your child or it gets back to them, and that also is a ton of pressure.
Mhm. I'm glad we're having this discussion about the social media component to this, and I understand why there's a lot of sports parents groups because sports parents want to feel they have a space where they can vent or talk about their problems, but I also want parents to really proceed with caution in those groups because you have to realize there's other people in these groups that are also emotionally charged or frustrated, or there's something like tough going on, and sometimes getting advice from other people like that isn't helpful, and you kind of
Hmm.
need someone with more of an outside perspective and less emotions involved in the situation, or you need to focus on your kid's own journey. And you don't always have to get in these groups and ask random sports parents for advice because everyone has their blinders on. And you just need to be really careful who you're getting advice from. Don't always make a quick decision. Well, if your daughter's not playing,
Hmm.
she should switch clubs right away. I've seen that in these groups as well. Sure, if it's like an abusive coach or a very truly toxic situation, then absolutely justified to leave. But in most situations, don't react quickly and make a quick decision that could cost your daughter's enjoyment or motivation, or she had no clue any of this was going on, but you're posting in the Facebook groups about this problem and not communicating with her. So it's just sometimes I call these Facebook groups the bad neighborhoods. You don't want to be
Yeah, yeah.
in the bad neighborhoods getting advice from other people
Hmm.
going through problems because they haven't solved their problem anyway. So why would you ask them? And I'm
Hmm.
sorry to like rain on everyone's parade in these groups, but you need to really use discernment. Who am I getting advice from and venting to, and putting stuff in writing on the internet?
Right, right. And I think a lot of this is, you had already mentioned this when we talk about social media, it's the comparison game. Seeing these highlight videos or highlight these humble brags, and you want to be able to do the same thing for your kid, but it's going in the other direction, or they're just not that superstar player. Yeah, so you just start venting to the internet. And yeah, you're gonna get every piece of feedback on the spectrum possible. Support, people calling you a bad parent, like telling you to jump clubs. Like I've been following this guy a little bit because he is a high level D1 coach, and he just sits in his car and does little 1 minute, like he answers questions that come in. And one of them was, should I jump clubs? And he's like, that's the last thing that you should do unless it's an unsafe or toxic situation where you feel like the emotional or physical health of your child is suspect. Don't jump clubs. And
Or
it's
if
a bad look. It's starting to become a bad look for recruiting as well. Why were you with 5 different clubs in 8 years?
Yeah. And I agree, Dave. You're justified if it's truly a toxic situation, or if maybe you're on U12 and under, those younger ages, and there isn't equal playing time, and your 9 year old's getting like 5 minutes a game. That's a problem. You should switch
Hmm.
teams because at that age, it is about playing and getting that time and developing. So,
Hmm.
I think those are like the two main reasons to hop clubs. And then for the older ages, if maybe your daughter's not getting playing time, because that's like a big reason to switch, she needs to ask the coach and she needs to advocate for herself and be able to
Hmm.
have those conversations. And maybe
Hmm.
it's something as simple as, hey, like, I need you taking more risks on the field. I need you doing more 1v1s at outside mid. And she's like, okay, got it. I'll go practice that
Hmm.
and work on that for a few months. So I think it's really important to remember there's only a few serious reasons to leave clubs, but other than that, you should be communicating with the coach instead of crap talking them, getting on social media and venting into an echo chamber, or crap
Hmm.
talking with your daughter and just feeding her emotions and amplifying them more. It doesn't help. It's not productive.
I agree. I'm so glad you said that because I'm a dad, and one of the things that I would love to be able to say, or that I would hope my kids would say, is I helped them. I educated them through difficult situations. So for a parent to even say, "Well, you need to go talk to your coach." Here, I'll give you an example. This is happening right now. I have a 14-year-old ECNL player, was on the shelf for a year, had to have her kneecap fused. It was a genetic thing that also was exacerbated by just playing through pain, blah, blah, blah. That's not the story. But she's worked herself back in. And most of what I'm working on, besides getting her springiness back and, making sure she can perform at the level she wants to again, is her confidence. And the club changed her head coach, and he doesn't know her all that well yet. And you know how a coach can be toughest on the best players sometimes, where like anything bad happens with the team, they just kind of come down on that player. That can be just human nature sometimes. So it's like you pull one of the best players aside during practice, and you're like, she did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, and this wrong. And I think his messaging is like, hey, one of our best players can make mistakes. Any of us can make mistakes, and here's how you fix it. Like they're trying to coach up, but you also have to know the psychology of each individual player. And this one, it's just digging into her confidence. Like it's crushing her. And her mom's like, well, you just need to go talk to the coach. And that's great advice. We spent 45 minutes out of an hour and a half session last week, just her and I, the athlete and I, talking about how she can approach her coach. Some things she could say if she feels comfortable to start the conversation. She's 14 and she's trying to be mature about it. She loves the game. She doesn't feel like his style of coaching, the way he communicates, is the best for her in certain situations. So, like, as a parent, try to come up with strategies and then empower your son or daughter to use those strategies and then back them up if they fail. Praise them when it goes well. Like, like Erica, maybe after practice or before practice, say, "Hey, coach, can I just have a couple minutes after practice today?" And just leave it at that. Because before practice, coach has their practice plan. They're starting to think. They're thinking about a lot of moving parts. They're not going to have 20 minutes for you before practice, but let them know, "Hey, I really want to talk." They're always going to say yes. After the practice, and I said to her, I'm like, "What would you feel comfortable saying to your coach?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know." And then I'm like, "Well, tell me what happened." And the way she explained it was perfect. I'm like, "Maddie, say that. Just say that. He's going to respect you so much." And I can guarantee you that well, I didn't say this. I said it might not change. I can be perfect because he's not perfect.
Mhm.
But will it get better because you have that conversation? Yeah. And he wants to have a good relationship and be able to communicate with one of his top 3 players, right? And she's like, "Yeah." So it's just been building her up and teaching her. And if more parents could do that stuff instead of just adding pressure by shit talking the coach or saying he should just be playing for you more, he shouldn't talk to you that way, or he shouldn't pull you aside in front of the whole team and tell them what you're doing wrong. Like, we can debate what's right or wrong in terms of how he's communicating and coaching, but we're not empowering our daughter to grow up, to be mature, to advocate for herself. And we can't just say advocate for yourself. That's pretty vague, right? Give her some tools, role play a little bit. If I was the coach, what would you say? "Well, this is weird." "Well, yeah, let's let it be weird between you and I. So when you go talk to the coach, it's not weird. But just get it out of the way now." Like, that's how you love your son or daughter and support them. So I hope that that story and that practical information can turn turn a light on or switch things for some parents, because I think, unfortunately, the satisfaction is way less than the frustration with parents and what they think their daughter or son is getting out of the club experience or team experience.
Thank you for sharing that story. And as you were talking there, I was just thinking about, wow, this girl is not just learning how to talk to her coach, advocate for herself, and communicate for soccer, but this is going to be a lesson for life. So
Yes,
when she enters the workforce, she is probably going to have this same conversation with her boss, whether it's for a promotion or what she needs to be doing better at her job to contribute to the team at work. And if parents are saying, "Oh, well, sports are teaching life lessons and this is what we're in it for," then really think, am I helping facilitate these life lessons, or am I just sitting over
100%.
here being frustrated and being resentful and crap talking people and causing drama and gossip? That's not a good life lesson. So you have to
Right.
really
Mhm.
analyze yourself, and are we really teaching life lessons through sport, or are we losing sight of that?
Exactly, and that goes back to how we started this conversation. Why are you having them play soccer? Right? And part of it is, yeah, it helps them develop as a human being, skills and cooperation, creativity, advocating for yourself. We can add that, like how to work as a team and within a team, how to take on a leadership role, how to take on a subordinate role. Like, but we have to help them. They can't just go figure it out. I mean, sometimes we figure stuff out by just, trial and fail, and then, oh, I figured it out. But like, what a gift to be able to give your son or daughter to sit down with them and say, and here's the mistake though, because I saw this happen live in front of me with an 18-year-old I'm training. The question from the dad was, "What do you feel like you want to say?" And the son, the player, was opening his mouth to say something, and the dad said, "What I would say is," and he went on this 5 minute rant about what he would say. So the dad left practice, and I pulled the kid over, and I'm like, "What would you say?" And I just shut up because he never got a chance to talk,
I love that.
right?
Now, I
Hey,
kind of want to wrap this up with just repeating the importance of making sure it's not too much pressure young and throughout their career. Young,
mhm,
it needs to be fun. Otherwise, they're going to lose that motivation for their sport or to do training on their own. And Dave, you'll find this interesting. So recently, since Casey and I got married, of course, there's talks of, oh, are you guys going to have like soccer and baseball player pro kids? And I'm just like, why is everyone asking me this? Like, I get he played at Old Miss, I played at a high level too, but it's like, I just want my kids to pick something they love because
mhm,
I know how hard it is, and so does Casey, to get to a level like that if you're lucky enough to play in college or professional. And it's so hard, but what kept me going was my love for it. And
mhm,
if my kid doesn't love soccer, I don't want them playing it because they're not going to make it. They're never going to make it to the high level. They're going to lose motivation, and if they like cheerleading or dance or golf and they're so passionate about it, it's like, yes, that's incredible because it's hard when you get older. It's hard when you make it to the next
mhm,
level, and you have to have that passion as your backbone.
mhm. 100%. If you don't, they're already at a disadvantage. And I'll say this, and I don't think I'm overstating it, not just in sport, but in life, because sport is the ultimate metaphor for life. I mean, anything you could go through in life, different intensities and different scenarios, obviously, it happens within the context of sport, especially when it comes to psychology, sociology, working together. Like, we're a society, we're supposed to work together to get things done. And I think you would agree with me. We're in a rough spot right now, in terms of that. So it's just, and then like I'm such an optimist, though. I want to kind of maybe end with this story. I was on a Zoom call yesterday with a professional player from Norway. This guy is Eric's the highest level. He's played in the Champions League. Like, like every time I talk to him, like, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy. And we're talking about um, whether or not he needs to tweak. He's on the like tail end of his career as an older player, and we're the reason we were talking was what should he be doing before and after every training session to prepare and then recover. And what what it went back to, I felt like I was talking to an 8-year old. I was like, Eric, continue to be as good as you can be at the easiest things that you do. Like, and now you just have to do a little bit more of them. So be remarkable at the simple things and do the things that the other players aren't doing to lengthen their career so that because it's about you. So, we were talking about practicing on your own and having the support from anyone to say, yeah, practice on your own. Don't forget about the love of the game. We talked about that. And I'm like, why are you still playing, dude? You had such a great career. And he's like, I love it. I feel like a kid when I'm out there. And that's what we would want. Not that we necessarily want or need our kids to play professionally and be 33 years old and still be in it, but to still be able to look back on the journey of ups and downs and injuries, making teams, not making teams, having playing time, not having playing time, scoring, not scoring, winning championships, losing championships, all of it. And it's a positive that helped catapult them into life, into the rest of their life, instead of this pressure cooker that once they graduate from high school and or college, if they go either just academically, they don't know how to operate in this world, because all they know is everything's a pressure cooker and all eyes are on me and I can't make a mistake and I need someone else to, you know, to advocate for me. It's just the pressure is so damaging, and it just makes me sad because what it does for their love of the game that you and I love so much. But I also get really worried for these kids when they're older.
Well, Dave, this was a very deep conversation, but I
Yeah.
think it's going to give everyone a lot to think about, which is good.
Hmm.
So I will leave Dave's links in the caption below in case you want to follow up with him or maybe do a Zoom call with him. Dave is so good at giving sports parents advice. He is one of my favorite youth performance coaches, and he's been at this for a while. He has kids of his own who play sports and he's been through it. So he can help with any and every single scenario in your child's athletic development. So, Dave, thank you again, and I'm sure you'll be back.
Thank you. I hope so. Thank you
Bye,
so much,
everyone.
and thank you, everybody.